people that listen to our podcast, you know what they want to hear? They want to hear 4 fucking grizzly bears getting down on some bullshit. That's what they want to hear.
Welcome to the Drivers Project podcast, featuring hosts Dominic Scelzi, JJ Hickle, Sam Hafertepe Jr., and myself, Daryl Turford.
The Drivers Project podcast is brought to you by Kaiser Aluminum Wheels. Be wiser, by Kaiser.
We're back with another Drivers Project podcast presented by Kaiser Wheels. Sam, you and I didn't do much racing this past weekend, but JJ, you hit the track. What do you have going on?
Yeah, we raced on Saturday night at Hawkeye Downs, which was a really cool event. It was a place that started out as a dirt track 100 years ago, and it's been a pavement track with like a quarter mile on the inside and a big half mile on the outside. And so they put dirt on the quarter mile and brought in, there was 25, there was probably more, but they started like 20 plus mini stocks in a race and 20 plus modifieds. And then we had a 19 car field of sprint cars, and it was a really awesome show. The stands were packed and stuff. And it was just neat to be a part of something like that, where everybody was so excited to have a dirt track race in their town, and real racy little flat kind of joint with like a kind of a top built around it. And, we won our heat race, had a good little battle with Tasker Phillips in the heat race, won that, drew outside front row of the dash, ran third in the dash, which really, really kind of sealed our fate, I felt like, for the evening. And then in the feature, started third, got to second early, and just kind of paced Tasker most of the race on the top and just kind of yo-yoed. We'd get close, he'd pull away a little, and just basically never was able to mount much of a charge and ran second. So another solid effort for the 63 team. Super proud of, Blake and my guys for working hard and just, chipping away at it. And another good weekend of racing.
Dom, I believe you hit the track in California as well, did you not?
Yep, I ran Dan Mini's 360 and R410. Probably one of my worst performances at Tulare ever. In Dan's car, they had a fresh engine, and it never ran. We just never could get any RPM out of it, and never ran. So started, qualified bad. He raced 6th to 5th, and we went 20th to 10th in the feature there, and just didn't run. And then with our car, we qualified no good and felt kind of odd. Heat race, we started 3rd, ran 4th, felt kind of odd. And then main event was horrible. And I figured out that we had the steering gear in there. We didn't send the steering gear. So I didn't have steering all the way to the right, because I'm like, man, I'm damn near spinning out like every time I enter the corner. And at that point, it's too late. So horrible weekend. Disgusted with our performance. And just another race out here on the West Coast for us, I guess. It's been like that all year. Stop.
Sam, you and I didn't race, but we're getting ready to go to Hutchinson, Kansas. How do you think that's going to go?
I think it'll be fine. 2 nights at the big fairgrounds, half-mile track. They had a really good fan count last time we were there earlier in the spring. So hopefully we'll have 2 really good crowds, going back there. Sometimes when you go back to some of these places for the second time, especially being a 2-day show, I get worried that the Friday might not be very packed, but hopefully they have 2 really good crowds and proves to be a good deal to be able to go back to some of these tracks 2 or 3 times.
One place we know is always going to have a good crowd is Williams Grove for the National Open. And this year we really got some pretty good races. I mean, to be honest, for the last few years, all anyone's really done in the drivers and team part of the racing community is really bitched about the lack of raciness at Williams Grove. And we got 2 pretty damn good features for the National Open. JJ, you were one of the first people to really get me on to Chase Deetsz. I'd kind of watched him and just thought he was another guy, but he's been awesome in that Steeman 23, and he picked up his first Outlaw win on Friday night. What do you think of that performance?
Yeah, he has been pretty phenomenal in that thing, and just everywhere where they go, I feel like just a constant progression type of deal. So for him to get his first outlaw win out there in PA really wasn't that surprising. He's been really close, but super fun race to watch. As far as Williams Grove goes, like I didn't actually get to see much of Saturday, but I ended Friday talking to people on Saturday about how that's the most entertaining night of racing I've seen at Williams Grove from start to finish that I can remember. Like I thought it was great racing all the way through. I mean, the PA posse was really strong, obviously, but like, the race all the way till the end, I thought was extremely entertaining. And yeah, Deetsz he executed when he needed to. And it's just how badass and ageless is Lance Deweese, I mean, from car to car, he's got that car just looking stuck to the track, and it's pretty awesome. And then another guy I feel like that definitely I was super impressed with was Justin Whittall with 2 back-to-back. Like they had a top 5 there the first time they came there, and then to have another one. I mean, that dude's he's been on his game, man.
Yeah, Dom, are we seeing Williams Grove return to what it used to be? Like, I'm guessing you watched that feature too and were fairly impressed.
I was blown away. I thought both features were incredible. 2 of the best races in recent memory at the Grove by far. Who would have thought that a slick, wide racetrack created good racing? Like, I mean, that's just blows my mind. I don't even know what that looks like anymore out here. But yeah, no, it was outstanding. And hats off to the Williams Grove track crew for giving a wide racetrack. I mean, that's what these race cars desperately need, and they nailed it. So I'd love to see them, give a racetrack like that all the time for the Grove. That's the only way it's racy. When it's got grip into it, it's horrendous to watch.
Sam, lastly with you, did you have any thoughts on Chase Deetz's win there?
Oh, I think he's been underrated for a couple of years now, and even him showing, what he's done, I still think he gets underrated, even after winning a race like that. He's been probably one of the better cars in PA in certain situations a lot of the time. He was good even before he got into the 23. I feel like he was good in his own stuff. I feel like he's getting more opportunities now, and now we're actually finally getting to see how good he really is. And as far as the track, like I wanted to touch on that some too. Like they can get that place where it's wide and slick, and I generally think this is kind of where it faltered in the past, where it'll get, say, 19, 20 seconds, but the top's completely not able to you can't run the top. They actually had the top good, had the bottom decent enough to make some traction around there. I think that place races really good whenever they have a thin top to grab a hold of. I feel like some of the times they've tried to get it wide and slick, and I think where they failed is the top just never is good enough to grab anything. So I feel like they made a valiant effort to make sure there was a top there. And I think the other thing is now, I think a lot of these cars are working better around the bottom than they used to. So even if the bottom's not there, cars are working better around the bottom than they used to. Prime example is the 69K looks kind of pedestrian against some of these guys now. Not saying it's not a winning race car, but it doesn't look as dominant as it used to. I think a lot of these guys are getting their cars a lot better around the bottom, so it makes the top have to be there to make a racetrack for these guys, and I think Williams Grove nailed it 2 nights in a row.
JJ, the other thing I wanted to touch on was usually when you see guys win their first outlaw race, it's usually like they let off the pole and they survived. Deetz started 4th and drove by some really good guys, and easily in the last 5 laps could have lost that race. That was a very losable race. I was just going to ask you, like, how impressive is it to win your first outlaw race that way, where you're stalking like some of the best drivers in the country and you're just making the right moves?
I mean, I really do believe it's one of those things where he's been in the situation and on the other side of it a couple of times, and he's lost a couple of races like that to where he's just, man, he's more than ready. He's been ready, and it's super impressive. Like what you're saying, just the composure he has and stuff. But I feel like all that's just, those guys he's raced a ton this year, and he's always in contention, and it's like it doesn't seem like the moments are ever too big. Whenever he's always in contention, it's just kind of business as usual, even though it's an outlaw show. And that's what it looked like the way he raced. It never looked like it was going to be the biggest win of his life. It just looked like he was just taking care of business and giving it what it wanted.
On Saturday night, another guy really kept his composure, and it's a guy that we've openly said a couple times. Dom went after him pretty hard, but he actually drove a race that really surprised me. Sheldon started up front early, and he fell back. And one of the things that he said in his interview that surprised me was him and Ripper went into that race consciously saying they were not going to try to run the top. Dom, how impressive was that win to you?
So impressive. And what's funny, like last year, I feel like he had a good run at the National Open as well. So it was a place he'd been creeping up on and had speed. I'd have to look back at the results, but I felt like he was pretty good last year, if memory serves me correct. And this year, like, it was impressive. Like, it just didn't look like normal Sheldon. It looked like the Sheldon that I'd been hoping to see for the last couple of years, where he just raced really mature, he raced patiently, and he raced smart. If someone would have told me how Sheldon won the race and I hadn't watched, I'd have been like, he pounded the shit out of the top harder than anybody else and got it done. And I mean, I don't even think he touched the top the last 15, 20 laps. Kudos to both those guys for going in there with a game plan and sticking to it and making it work. It's cool to see that team get a win. I guess in their last race together. But they're at the end of their tenure. I mean, that's been a long running team, and it's cool to see them win a marquee event like that. They're at the end of their tenure.
He ran second last year, Dom.
He ran second last year?
Yep.
Sam, what do you think of the race and the late race battle between Sheldon and Balog?
Well, honestly, I think it's set up really good for Sheldon for a number of reasons. Okay, if Sheldon wanted to run the top, Balog's already there. Number two, so it kind of makes Sheldon have to be where other guys aren't. And I think, at that point, like, Balog was making some mistakes on the top, so it even made it more to the point where Sheldon really has to be really, really conscious of, okay, man, I got to hit my marks on the bottom. He's messing up. It's going to open a window for me. And he drove a phenomenal race. But we've been seeing that all year out of Sheldon. They might not have the wins like they've had, but man, he has put himself in a lot of smart situations this year, smarter situations than I've seen him do in the past. Like I say, we don't see the win totals as much, but what we do see is, they're really trying to get their car really good instead of relying on, hey, man, Sheldon's just going to have to send it out here and make something happen, and I think to have that mindset has actually helped them a ton, not just for Sheldon, but as a race team, it's helped them. And I think, Sheldon moving forward, wherever he goes, obviously we know where he's going, but when he gets to his new home, I truly think this is going to just carry over. I think he's trending in the right direction. I think people put the right stuff behind him. He gets roughly the same guy behind him. I truly think that there's a lot more to see out of him in the coming years. And, I don't think he's, to the David Gravel and the Macedo and that area yet, but I feel like he's going to get to that point if they stick with it. I say this all the time with all these teams. If you can keep guys together and let them keep working together, if that's able for a lot of these teams, I really truly think this is something that will bode well for them down the road. And yeah, I think the sky's the limit, man. He's been doing it a long time. He still has an opportunity going forward next year. And I think this is just kind of really, because this is like, him winning a Huset's High Banks race. Like, we could see that all day long out of him. Like, there's nobody here sitting here going, man, I don't think he'd ever be able to do that. Like, he's one of the guys you would expect to win a race like that. But to go to the National Open, that's not a race we're picking Sheldon Haudenschild to win, even though he did run second last year. That's not like if we had to pick out of 10 guys, I don't even think he's going to be in the 10 guys you're going to pick to win that race. So for him to win it this year, ran second last year, I really, truly think that he's rounded that corner as a race car driver. Their team's rounding the corner as knowing what it takes and doing the right things to make them successful. And I think it's just good to see. I'm impressed to the nth degree. I can't believe the changes that they've made, the changes he's made. It's very impressive to me, and I look forward to seeing a lot more of it.
Now, on the other side of this, we got the Bill Balog fan club president, and I'd say Sam's right up there for Bill Balog fan club.
True.
Bill has had his heart broken now at 2 of the big races of the year. JJ, when is sweet Bill Balog going to pick up one of these big wins?
I don't think it's going to be long, man. He's in contention all the time. Like that's the name of the game, is just being up there all the time. And like, he's obviously got an extremely good package at Huset's. They have big races, a couple a year. He's somehow I don't know how much experience he really has at Williams Grove. I know he's not, brand new there or anything, but like, he's probably got less experience than a lot of guys that he seems to have it figured out. They're pretty good as well. So it's just, guy's just a badass race car driver, man. I there's not really much else to say about it.
So I actually wanted to dig into the last laps of the race, and Sam and I had a pretty interesting conversation about it. So I wanted to bring you guys in on it. And there were some people wondering why Bill Balog ran the last few laps like he did. Some other people thinking maybe he wanted him back. And I asked Sam that question. Earlier in the year, Sam and I were running a race in Montana, and Sam was running a curb, and it was a pretty nasty curb. And eventually Sam actually hopped the curb while he was in the lead. And it turned out he didn't have to run as hard as he was. And I just really, so then it started entering into my head, like, how do you guys decide when a curb is getting too dangerous? And in this case, we're looking at Bill Balog, and he's been dominant all night on the top. And now in the last 10 laps, the curb is starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And now it's starting to trip up your car. So I wanted you guys to really give an in-depth explanation of what is going on in your thoughts. And Sam, one thing that you told me that I thought was really impressive was, could you explain what's happened to lead up to that point, and then what you think Balog's thinking? And then I'd like your guys' opinion on what your thought process is when you're running a curb. It's been fast for you all night, but now it's getting a little too tricky.
Like, there was like several variables that I think, it might take a little bit to explain it, but I'm never one for a loss of words, so I'll dig in for it. But like, I think, when you start running the top at the beginning of a feature, usually say the curb's that tall, right? And it's fairly simple to run, and there's usually probably a decent amount of moisture right below the curb. And I think, at a place like that, I don't think fuel load hurts you too bad early in a big place like that, because you stay so winged down and the track is faster at the beginning. So the wing speed's helping you, and you're out front, so you don't have a lot of dirty air. And I think as the race plays on, there's several variables that happen. The curb gets taller, and then the moisture below the curb actually starts going away and it becomes slick. So instead of just running on it, now you're kind of sliding to it hitting it a little bit and upsetting the car a little bit. Now we've lost fuel load. So now the ride height to the rear of the car has gotten a little higher, so you potentially could get tighter. You're probably getting into dirty air, which is really getting you a lot tighter. So I feel like he's fighting all this stuff. And the other thing is, like, Williams Grove is such a unique place to where if you're going to pick a line to run at Williams Grove that you can hit lap after lap, running the top is probably the easier option. To run the bottom correctly there, man, it's really tough to do. You can go into one and I feel like a guy that does it a lot, like a guy that's been there a lot, obviously has a lot better way of running the bottom around that place. I mean, I don't think it's easy by any stretch of the imagination to run the bottom at Williams Grove. So I think even though he thought like, man, he's tripping up the curb, I honestly don't feel like he was to the point where, all right, I'm comfortable enough, I'll just go hammer the bottom right here, no big deal. Because then I feel like he thinks he might get drove around on the top. So I don't think he did anything wrong. You could sit here and, man, he should have moved to the bottom, and you can be that guy. But, man, I think he did what he thought he was comfortable with. And honestly, dude, like if you mess up on the curb one lap, you think, okay, well, next lap I'm not going to. You can probably hit it better the next lap, or you can figure out something. We're race car drivers. We just don't give up that easily. So I truly think he thought, man, all right, next lap I'll be able to get it. And he almost got back beside the other 17. So I don't feel like anything he did was totally wrong. And I honestly do feel like if he went to go run the bottom, because he'd been committed to the top for so long, all night long, I feel like he maybe would have messed that up in that attempt and maybe would have gave the race away anyway. So I just feel like, man, he got tight as the race went on, and that's pretty common for a track to change like that and to lose fuel load, curb get bigger, track gets slicker below the curb, dirty air, like all that stuff he was encountering just made it even tougher on him.
So JJ, what's your thought process there when you're in that situation? When is the point when you say, okay, I've got to stop running this curve?
I feel like whenever he's set up all night long, he's running the top. To be honest with you, I didn't see any of Saturday night, so I don't actually know the exact situation, but just in general, in the situation you're talking about, most of the time when you're good enough to run the top with that much success, you're probably a little more freed up, and just going down there and trying to run the bottom, your chances of just skating across or missing where you need to be are so high. Basically kind of what Sam's saying. I mean, it's just, in my mind, I would just exactly like what Sam said. You might, in your head, you might think that you got a tire going low, or that, you just need to run through there a little harder, or run through there just at a different angle with more brake or whatever. But it's so much easier to try to fix what you're doing in the car to try to get through and stay on what you think is your preferred line than it is to just drop from the top to the bottom, especially at a place like that that's so exaggerated. Like, it's so wide. If you miss the bottom, you're in no man's land, So I in a situation like that, I think he just kind of sounds like he just stuck to what he knew he had a shot with making work, and it got so lippy that it wasn't going to work. But it's kind of, there's not really a point. I mean, maybe if a guy shows you a nose on the bottom and it's faster, if you can pace some lap cars and you're no longer making good ground, then it's a whole different story. But deal like that, when you're just pot committed on the top, you're pretty much just all you can do to make it work.
Dom, what are your thoughts, or what runs through your mind when you're trying to make that decision?
Yeah, I think Bill did everything he could have done, leading that race. It's hard. I've been in the position at a place like Hanford where the curb is getting really treacherous, and you think you're putting good speed together, but I think there was a time where he saw Sheldon, he knew Sheldon was down there, I feel like, there are times where maybe you need to just be like, hey, I am a professional. I've got to take this guy's line away in hopes that, you know, I can be you know, as good down there as he is. But, I also understand you run the curb that good and that hard for that long, and it's hard to give up on it. And, I don't think Bill did anything wrong. It's just, there's times where you feel it slowing down. Like if it's pushing over the edge somewhere, or it's getting so built up that you just can't make it work. But he really wasn't having that. Like his problems on the curb where he was just running it that hard and it was that tough to run. And Sheldon was just that good on the bottom. So I probably have played it exactly the same way. It sucks to see him lose it. I really wanted to see him be able to win that. But you know, I don't know. Like I think he wants that race back because as a driver, like you obviously want to do something different. Like, well, fuck, that didn't work. If I could have get that back, could I have done this and it have been a different outcome? I don't know. Maybe it would have been. Maybe Sheldon would have, ripped it right through the middle and blown by him. I mean, it's kind of hard. Kind of hard to be the Monday morning quarterback, but I really think he did a great job. And that team has come so far from their first year when they blew up all their engines in Volusia, and he had to jump in Kevin Newton's car to finish out the weekend. Like, I mean, man, they've really built something special there. I'd hate to see Bill get a ride at this point. Like, I want him to stick in his own stuff and continue to build it. Hopefully, the funding's there for them to continue to grow and be better, because I truly believe that they're just continuing to become more and more of a powerhouse.
So what you're saying, Dom, actually leads into the other thing Sam and I were talking about. Sam, you wanted to touch on how impressive it is that Bill is getting a fast car on all these difficult racetracks. Could you expand on that?
Well, all the premier racetracks. Like, dude, look at the premier races. I don't even know how he ran at Eldora for the King's Royal, but look at all the premier. I don't think he sucks at Eldora, I can tell you that. But look at all the premier places that he goes, and he's in the hunt. Like, dude, to be a factor at Williams Grove, like JJ said, it's not like he's got a ton of experience there. To be a factor at all these places with the team that he has, like, I still don't think people understand, the difference between his team and everybody else's team. I mean, fuck, there's a video of him working on his own engine in HP's shop. That's some shit like I used to do. So, like, I just don't think people realize there aren't drivers doing this shit. Like, there aren't, like, and that's at the end of the day, man, like, I would like a day to see him not have to do that stuff. Maybe get some more guys on board where he doesn't have to do some of that stuff. Still be the integral part of his team, no doubt about that, because you can't fix, like, if you're what makes your team go, and I've told you this before, Daryl, we can't lose that part. Like, if you're your best situation to be your best crew chief, we're not changing that. If you're the best guy to make these calls, we're not changing that. Just get more help so we don't have to do these other things, like take the load off of him. And I truly, truly, truly think, I don't know how far Bill can go like that. Like, because I do think there is a limit to that. I do think, like, you have to get to a spot where you're like David Gravel or Carson Macedo or some of these guys of that type of workload. You have to lessen your workload to be able to be on the same page as these guys. So I do think to be a contender, that's what you have to do. But I would just like to see him be able to get enough help to where he doesn't have to do all the things that he's still doing. And maybe that wouldn't change anything. Maybe he likes doing it the way he does it. I don't know. But yeah, for a guy to be able to go to Williams Grove, to go to Huset's, to go to all these prestigious racetracks, Knoxville, any of these places that he's going to, like, man, he's one of the guys. Like, he might not be the guy we're picking to win these races, but he's one of the guys when we go to a big show. And guys in their second full-time year or second or third, whatever year he is now, they don't do that, especially with the resources he has.
Anyone want to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to add. I think if you are sitting at home and you're a family team, or you're a team owner and you're wanting to build something special, look at what Bill Balog has done. They had a 5-year plan pretty much. 2 years on the Highland or the All-Star Tour, back when it was stacked to the fucking brim. They ran 2 years. They won like 3 races there, 3 races. Come to 2023, and they run a true outlaw schedule. So they kind of hit the places they hadn't been. They run some all-star stuff. They run some IRA, some Knoxville, some outlaw, pick and choose whatever they want. And then 24, 25, full-time outlaw. And I mean, the progression has been insane. So that just goes to show, like, everybody's like, oh, I got to be outlaw racing, or I got to be high limit racing. Well, you really fucking don't. You need to focus on, can I get to Williams Grove? Can I get to Port Royal? You really need to, I feel, if you're going to go on one of the national tours, you have to make time in your career to get good in Ohio, get good in Pennsylvania, get good at, Knoxville, and then get good on the West Coast. Like, those are your areas you need to focus on. And if you're not taking the time to, get good on those, it's going to take you longer to be successful on the road.
JJ, do you have anything? I mean, you are the fan club president.
I know. I was actually thinking that when Sam was like, I don't know if Bill likes that. I was thinking to myself, like, for being a president of it, I really don't know Bill very well. He might like doing all that shit too. I don't know, but it is funny. I just had that thought. Nope, nothing else to add. Just
well,
we
were talking about how, like Dom was saying, like, this is like the family team standard. You're basically trying to do what Bill does. Like, what are the things that maybe people don't realize he's doing that are so impressive when you are trying to build your own team?
I mean, well, one thing that's crazy to me is this is such a crew chief driven sport. And like, I'm fortunate enough to have a guy that's been around the sport for a long time and Blake helping me. Whereas Bill goes to all these places and has a fast race car with like out of their notebook, just doing it the way they do it, which is even more impressive. It's not like, because some of these teams, a guy like Rico might not have experience at some of these places, but he can really lean on a guy like Ricky to get him close, or to kind of mentor him on, either level. Whereas Bill's just seems kind of like a lone ranger out there just doing it, and that's just super impressive. But yeah, I mean, man, that's just the getting up and down the road, there's so many things people don't even think about. But yeah, the having a truck and trailer to get up and down the road, and just stuff like just all that without missing races and going off without a hitch is such a huge undertaking to do a schedule like he's doing. It's like, the goal for us is to have a truck with air conditioning someday, Daryl.
So we can't, I think if we skip this topic, we'd be shot by the people by our fan.
By our fan.
By our fan. Yeah, our fan.
I like that.
Obviously, after Sheldon picked up the big $75,000 win, the next day the crew is gone. It sounds like Ripper was fired. It sounds like when Ripper was fired, the rest of the crew quit.
What fan?
Craig
A. Thorson?
My dad, maybe? I don't know.
Craig A. Thorson is our number one fan.
Yes.
Oh, Craig Thorson. No, that other Graham Langerhauer.
That is our fan.
He's hardcore.
Yeah. Obviously, we'd be shot if we didn't talk about this by our one fan. Obviously, after winning the National Open, the crew chief, Kyle Ripper, was let go the next day. From what we understand, the crew quit when they found out about that. Sam, in these situations, it always seems to me like when you have something happen that's sudden like that probably the decision was actually made before that race, because the likelihood of that decision being made after you won $75,000 doesn't really seem very likely.
Yeah, I mean,
and to clarify, I see nothing, I hear nothing. I don't know anything about anything. I've never seen anything, never heard anything. Don't know who I am, don't know who they are.
Continue, Sam.
Yeah, you would have to believe that it was kind of predetermined that that was probably going to be his last race before the weekend even started. But even if it is, obviously he didn't just mail it in. They still won 75 grand, which is that's big. That's big for him. It's being an adult in the situation, knowing you're probably on your way out, but still giving everything you got for the team, for the guys, for your driver. That speaks volumes of his character. Yeah, I commend a guy like that. He could easily just said, "Fuck this," I'm just going to leave anyway, or whatever the case. It's good to see a guy go out there and still put his best foot forward and try to win the National Open. He had a million reasons probably not to. So it just looks like, like even though it was predetermined, like I say, if a guy wins you 75 grand, helps win you 75 grand, sets the car up that wins the $75,000, you're probably not getting rid of that guy unless there was prior commitments to something else. Something was said beforehand. Obviously that team was obviously going to be done at the end of the year anyway with Sheldon. So, obviously we could see stuff like this happen. And honestly, the guys leaving too, that tells you like that's a pretty tight knit team. Obviously, if all the guys have each other's back, man, that's good to see too. Kudos to those guys as well. For having that guy's back. Not just for quitting the team. Like I don't think that's cool, but I think if you really believe in your system and believe in that guy, and that's the guy you're riding or dying with, if you feel like maybe, I feel like they felt like maybe he was wronged or something, and they stuck with him. I think that's pretty cool. If guys did that for me, I'd think that was pretty awesome as well.
I don't really have a direction, JJ. I just kind of wondered your guys' thoughts. What were your thoughts on it?
We know for the first, that's the third take we've done. We know you don't have a fucking direction, Daryl.
No, I think Sam nailed it on the head. Like for those guys to go out and kind of know the team's, basically on its last legs there, even though they know they're done at the end of the year, to go out and do that's impressive. But for him to kind of be on his way out and still go out and be able to prove himself like that and have those guys have that kind of speed is awesome. And yeah, man, just more power to all those guys. They're you got to respect guys that stick together like that. Like I know the tire guys, I don't know those guys really well, but I see them quite a bit during the race season. They're all real good dudes and they get along good. And so, yeah, just a crazy, weird situation. Like I heard about it on, one of the podcast deals I watch on YouTube, and yeah, just surprised to see how it all went down for sure. But I'm sure there's a ton of details and stuff behind the scenes that the public will never know about, and just onward and upward. I'm sure those guys are going to be just fine. Probably, I'm sure all of them will have a place to go. So,
usually we usually hear about that stuff, from other people, and we just knew nothing about it. So it's crazy.
Yeah. If we only had another guy on the podcast that could have maybe dropped some insight, but the only people we had were JJ and Dom hosting, or JJ and Sam hosting today. So thanks for your guys' thoughts. I really appreciate that, and I'm glad we didn't skip anyone at all.
Three blind mice.
So we're just going to move on to the next topic because the only people I wanted to hear talk about it were Sam and JJ. It's unfortunately a very sad topic. Bobby Allen.
Hang on. Before we get into Bobby Allen, can I just say that, what an awesome way to get fired.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The best, the best mic drop of all time, dude. I like the shit out of Ripper, so I thought it was cool as hell,
And
it doesn't get any
Facebook
better.
post was like, how the fuck you get fired on your day off? Oh, my God.
Is that what he said?
Love it.
So Sam, should we tell the Ripper story? We were the people that actually picked up Ripper to go on the road for his first World of Outlaw race. Sam and I picked him up
I bet Ripper doesn't even remember it.
I've talked to Ripper about it. I don't think he remembers it. But Sam, do you kind of want to tell that story? I don't think Ripper two shits if we told the story.
You're going to remember better than I am, Daryl.
So basically, that year, I want to say it was 2009 or 10. Sam and Brian Ellenberger. 09. Sam and Brian Ellenberger decided to share a T-shirt trailer. Ripper basically brought the T-shirt trailer to every race, and then he would go work on Ellenberger's car. So we'd never met Ripper in our lives. And we pick him up from the airport. I want to say we were at Chico, were we not, Sam?
Yeah, I think so.
And we pick him up from the airport. We're like, hey, dude, have you eaten anything? You want to? And for some reason, we end up at Walmart. And we've never met Ripper in our lives. And the first thing Ripper does is he hops on one of those old lady carts, those electric carts, and he starts smashing into everything in Walmart. And that was pretty much our introduction to Kyle Ripper. And I feel like that was a pretty appropriate introduction. Guy's never met us in his life, and he's running over people's shit in a granny cart at Walmart. So that was our guy bringing our T-shirt trailer to the track every week in 2009. Does anyone else have a Ripper story? There's got to be a million.
There's a better one than that one, but I'm not gonna say it.
There's a bunch better than that one. We can't say.
I can think of a couple stories, but I'm gonna refrain.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll keep it to the PG Ripper story, but yeah, he was basically an animal. He's calmed down a bunch, but yeah, he's still pretty freaking entertaining, and
he's awesome.
Yeah, that was the most Kyle Ripper way to go out of a job. Like, I feel like that was appropriate for him for how to leave. We're gonna get on to a shittier topic now, and that is the passing of Scruffy Bobby Allen. Obviously, he's an icon in our sport. There's a million ways to talk about this, but I got a few things we touch on. But first of all, just kind of get your guys' thoughts. I'll start with you, Dom, because my guess is you knew him the best.
Man, I raced a lot with those guys, through my years of like being on the road and stuff. And I got to know Logan fairly well. And, I talk to Bobby now and then, but like the one Bobby story that I always think about, we were in Grand Forks. No, we weren't in Grand Forks. We were in Minot, North Dakota. And that's where everybody used to stop, like before we go to like South Dakota, Montana, and then to Skagit. So it was after the Nationals. Everyone would have fun. Everyone stays at this one hotel. And we had this huge cookout. We had like 5 or 6 haulers all parked in a circle. And Bobby Allen was sitting in a chair, and we had a methanol fire, a ring of fire of methanol around him burning the entire night. And, dude, he was just a funny guy. Like, it seemed like everywhere he went, he had a different, like, friend who was some broad who was 40 years younger than him. And I'm like, how does this guy do it? Like, how is it possible? But he always made everybody laugh. Like, he was a funny dude. And but yeah, that Ring of Fire story, I remember, like, I used to have so much fun on the road. And Ripper was out there, and there was a lot of really cool individuals out on the road at that time. Jason Johnson, but I just, I thought that was pretty funny with Bobby. And it's horrible what happened. It was pretty unexpected. And thoughts and prayers to the family. And I can't help but think about Jacob right now. And that's a lot, losing your dad. I couldn't imagine what he's going through, and your mentor and the guy you've raced with every step of the way. So I hope that team continues on in his honor. And I hope Jacob, can step up and continue to, make that team a powerhouse. I mean, it's one of the fastest cars in the country. And, I think Bobby and Jacob had a lot of fun racing together. So I hope that Jacob keeps it going.
JJ, what are your thoughts on Bobby's passing?
Just absolutely terrible to hear, like I don't know those guys that well. I've gotten to know Jacob a little. He's got to be one of the most genuine guys that I've met from the racetrack as far as just BSing with them, in passing and stuff. But yeah, man, you hate to see anything like that. It's so tough for their whole family, and then as well as like how it affects their race team and everything else. So yeah, you just tough deal, and kind of just thoughts to everybody. And I don't really have any good Bobby Allen stories, but Dominic is in his underwear.
Okay, second straight podcast. God damn it.
Dominic, I'm trying to be heartfelt, bro. But no, man, it's sad and terrible, and it just
I'll park my dump truck.
Tough situation. Big dump.
Sam, what are your thoughts on his passing?
When stuff like this happens, like, we always say, it's so crushing for the racing world. I mean, this is, I view, like, when I see Bobby Allen, I view him as a big time family man. Like, I really do. Just, it's crushing to the family. It's, you just think about, what he's done for Logan, what he's done for Jacob. You see his daughter around so often. It's just like one big family and I feel like, and I don't know any of them very well at all, but I feel like a guy like him, it's such a sudden tragic deal. Nobody really saw coming. To me, I mean, the impact he's had on Jacob, the impact he's had on Logan, like I used to remember like Rick Ferkel coming out on the road in his later years, right? And I thought it was so tough for him to do what he did. And like, dude, Bobby was right there. I mean, he's what did we say? He was 81. Like he still was. I'm not saying he was out on the road like he was, but man, I remember when they first started on the road with Logan and Jacob and like on the outlaw deal, like he was out there, man. Like he was doing it with them. Like he might not have been doing all the physical work all the time, but man, he was out there doing it. And the way they were doing it at the time, like it was that rough style, like what he was about, like how he did it, and like I remember when I was driving for Poncho, he was driving this little small Mercedes car. And you kind of get a chuckle. He'd go to Poncho's all the time, like look at the used parts, look at different stuff. And we were outside working on the car, and he pulled up, and he'd always give us like a little tidbit of something, maybe not anything, like maybe something for us to laugh about, or like just a little tidbit of something. Well, I remember that day, and I never ever forgot it. We're sitting out there, and he goes, "You see this car right here? I drive this. In 1 week, I save enough money to buy a right rear tire." And I remember that, like, it cracked me up. I never forgot it. But, like, when he started with Jacob and Logan, man, that's how they raced, like, the hard way, And, I mean, I feel like he taught those guys so much. He obviously left a huge lasting impression on so many people in the racing world. But like, I always feel like these guys don't really get enough recognition about like how much family is affected by this and how much of a family guy he was and the people around him. Everybody has good things to say about Bobby. I've never really heard anybody say anything, bad about him. I just, it's really tragic. And I think Jacob will take this I think he'll take the keys and run with it. I really do. I think he'll do a good job. I think he's learned a bunch. Like, I didn't think Jacob was learning a bunch early on, when they were out there, but now you see him and you could just see the amount he's changed in the last 5 years. And man, I feel like, Bobby's really put a good impression on him. And I think that he's learned so much from him, and he's taken that. And I think he's running with it, man. I think Jacob's going to do a hell of a good job and make Bobby proud, and I'm sure obviously Logan makes him proud as well. So it's amazing that he's brought those two guys to where they are, and even at the old age he was when he took them out there, like, guys of that age don't produce stuff like that usually with guys. So it's really impressive to see. Bobby was, how many years after his heyday of running, and to come out into the scene that late, technology's taking over, things are changing, and they were still able to adapt. Very impressive. Probably one of the smartest guys that a lot of people didn't realize how smart he was. Like, I've always been very impressed with Bobby, and it's truly sad to see him gone.
So I don't think any of us really knew him well. The Shark team basically started when Sam and I basically stopped running the Outlaw Tour. And everyone's going to say their glowing things, and you're going to hear the best about Bobby Allen. The way I wanted to get Bobby across is I had some things I wanted to touch on, but I just wanted to talk about like the real Bobby Allen, like what he was like to race with and stuff like that, and just stuff outside of what he was like to race with. And the first thing that really hits me about his death is we are running out of his generation of racer that is still like active. So people like that we lost to me are like Ferkel or like Bobby. And there was this generation, and I don't care if people get mad about this, their generation raced different than us, and it's not in the ways you'd think. Their generation would run like all these races, and they were really, really mechanically inclined. They were really, really good at being in tough situations and getting themselves out of it. To be honest, they look at our generation of racer, and I think this might surprise fans, and they think we work too hard. Like, a guy from Bobby's generation in general usually looks at us and thinks we're doing way too much maintenance. I mean, Sam has a story of going off with Rick to a race, and like the maintenance they did was put water in the engine, in the radiator. I hate that we're losing that generation because, I mean, first of all, they saw things we'll never see. It was neat to see them race with us and still be, all of them were so sharp, the ones that were still racing with us. And I just really hate that we're losing that generation. Like, I truly feel like the last active guy from that generation is Sammy, if I'm not mistaken. And even if they didn't race the same way we do, I hate that kind of racers is leaving. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that. Like, I mean, is he the last active guy from that generation other than Sammy?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think, but even at that, I do think he's adapted. Like,
Bobby adapted the best.
No doubt. Like, I was very impressed with that. You can probably touch on, the first time they came out and to where they are now. Like, I think Bobby, I think they adapted as a team very well. And I would assume they were led by him. I mean, I know obviously we don't know everything and every detail with Logan or Jacob's team, but when they first got out there, like what Daryl was saying was, Bobby did it this way. That's how he knew to do it. And then suddenly they knew, hey man, we got to up our game a little bit. And dude, the time they put in to learn that and to get to where they got to and to where they are, that's impressive. And for a guy of his age to be able to adapt, that says a lot.
Yeah, so we're actually going to get to that later, but the first thing I wanted to talk about, this impressed the shit out of me. was Logan's first 410 race that I'm aware of was, I want to say, the National Open or a outlaw race in the fall at the Grove, and he'd been winning 358s. He'd been dominant in 358s. And fans that were there or seen this race will remember it. It was basically like Logan's first World of Outlaw show, and he went toe to toe with Jason Myers. They traded the lead several times. In all honesty, Logan probably had the better car, but was running his first outlaw show, and he eventually hit the wall late in the race and cost himself the race. I want to say running second to Myers. But the thing that impressed me about that, and I don't know if you guys can touch on that, is like when a guy isn't in sprint car racing, like on the World of Outlaw level, Dom, I guess I'll go to you on this. How insane is that to still be up with sprint car racing, understand it? Like, Jesus, when was the last time a Alan Card run a World of Outlaw race? And here they go, their first World of Outlaw race, and they're probably the fastest car and going to run top two with the World of Outlaws at Williams Grove.
You just don't see that. Like, it just doesn't happen. Like, and it's funny because, like, I hadn't really heard of Logan before he started the Outlaw thing, besides that National Open where he almost won it. But he came out to Tulare, and I remember looking at the cars thinking, dude, these fucking guys are wasting their time. What are they even thinking? Logan was fast as shit. Like, he was really good. And, you know, Jacob, I don't think his engine ran from, like, the whole swing. But I remember thinking these guys will never come back. And then the next year they came back, they were a little bit better. And then they came back a little bit better. And then, like, they got to the point where I'm like, these guys have two of the fastest fucking race cars in the country. Like, genuinely two of the fastest race cars. And when you look at the accomplishments for both teams, it's incredible. It really is incredible what they've accomplished.
So Sam referred to it earlier, and you're kind of talking about it now. So we'll get into that. Logan and Jacob were parked beside us at Volusia the first year they decided they were going to do the World of Outlaw tour. And to be quite honest, Sam and I were disgusted. We literally did our maintenance, went to lunch, came back, and their car still hadn't rolled out of the trailer. And eventually they rolled it out probably at 2 or 3 o'clock, and they did their work. And I have no problem saying this because I've actually heard Logan somewhat refer to this in interviews, basically saying they didn't realize the level they had to work at. And I remember they left Volusia, and I remember being flat out pissed off. Logan basically put up a Facebook post saying that they got outdollared at Volusia. And I remember, like, being really upset about that, being really annoyed. I can't remember Sam's reaction, but it was like, I felt so insulted that they worked so little on the car and then were blaming it on money when they left Volusia.
Right.
And then to see the level they grew. And then, like I say, Logan did an interview where he's like, they realized pretty quickly that they were not working hard enough. To me, what's insane is you see that team there, and I mean, they were slugging it out on the road. To see them then be like, I think you guys will remember this, he was probably the favorite going into the million. Like, to watch a team go from that, you know, was not even getting out to do maintenance before lunch, to just build the team, as Dom was saying. And then literally the night you won the $1 million race, like, people thought you or Brent Marks or Rico was probably going to be the guy that won it. Like, to see them build that team like that is insane. And I mean, JJ, we're talking about you trying to build your team. Like, can you just kind of try and put that into perspective on some level, what they built from where they were to where they got?
I mean, honestly, it's fairly unfathomable. It's just to be able to go out there with just basically a dream and a bunch of knowledge like Bobby had and a few old friends and resources, is just to be able to make it work is like something that happened that shouldn't have happened in our generation, but those guys made it happen. It's old school stuff. And it's just, yeah, to go racing just takes so much time, effort, energy, personnel. I mean, it's unfathomable, really. But yeah, like for those guys to be able to do what they did and start where they started and now be where they're at, it's pretty much the American dream as far as dirt track sprint car driving or, dirt track racing goes. It's like a rags to riches. It's badass, dude. I mean, I don't know how to really quantify it besides it's so impressive. It's almost like something you will probably not see again in our, with the way that the sport is these days and the way everything's kind of bought and not built. It's a different generation now. And what they did is absolutely incredible.
Sam, you were there right with me watching them unload on the first day. I mean, what are your impressions watching them from that first night to where they've built that team now with Bobby?
Well, and that's kind of what I touched on, like just to see, like that's what I feel like Bobby, helped them adapt. Like obviously he knew, hey man, we're not, I used to race this way. This is how I did it. This is how we do it, right? And you can't say nothing negative about that. Like, like the Rick story that you said, like, man, Rick thought the maintenance we would do was dumb, but he didn't know the difference because times had changed, things had changed. And, obviously Rick changed when he had cars out there. Like he knew he had to do different things, but the same with Bobby. And I think any of those guys, it's just a testament to you do what you have to do to be successful when you're good at something. So like a guy like Bobby was successful when he raced back in the day as a driver, right? Very successful. Well, they started off on this journey, and obviously they start off and obviously, okay, they were low buck, no doubt about it. Their maintenance level was off, like no doubt about it. But like I say, when you're good at something, you have to, you do whatever it takes to be successful. And that's what they did. Like, and I think it's probably led by Bobby the most. I feel like they started off that way because Bobby knew how he used to do it, right? Was still super knowledgeable about race cars, no doubt about that. Just sometimes in the sport, if you get out for 20 years or longer at that level, things change. And like I say, the way they adapted and the way they overcame how they started is still super impressive to me to this day. It's unbelievable, to be honest. I think for usually a guy that's older and usually they get set in their ways and, well, this is how we're going to do it. This is how I did it. But I don't think Bobby was like that. I mean, I'm sure there were still certain things that, guys like him are stubborn about, but I think they adapted really well.
So, Dom, where does Shark Racing go from here?
I'm actually watching that 2011 race as we speak. I don't know. I mean, I really feel like they've become a pretty established team on the Outlaw Tour. They've I don't want to say had off years, but they haven't been as good as what we've seen in the past over the last 2 years. Shark Racing's made changes. They got rid of their crew chief, so I would think that Logan would stay on the Outlaw Tour, and I'd like to see him have a stronger season in 2026. Ashton Torgerson is very what's the word I'm looking for? He's just very inexperienced.
Raw be the right word?
Yeah, raw. He hasn't been to a lot of places. He's going to these places for like the first or second time, and he's really killing it. Like he's doing an awesome job. I don't know if he's ready for a full high limit run. I don't know if that would work for them, but I'd love to see them just race him more because I think they got something there. I mean, he's had these monster runs at Eldora. He's had these monster runs through the field at these places. He's won some races. Obviously, there's a connection there. I'd love to see them just build on that and give the kid some time. Like his inexperience is he's only going to get better and he's only going to learn more. Once you start taking him to these places 5 and 6 and 7 times, like I think he's going to figure out how to race these places. And I think that, if him and Jacob have a good dialogue, that they're going to continue to build that. I would like to see that continue to where they could possibly run a high limit tour and have both cars on both national tours. I'd love to see that for Shark Racing.
So the only thing I'd like to say other than that is I've talked about his 1990 Knoxville Nationals a million times. My suggestion is I think we got to throw it up on YouTube, and we always do companions to live shows. I think one night we got to do a companion broadcast to the YouTube clip, to the YouTube video of the 1990 Knoxville Nationals all the way through, because I don't think that race has been seen by enough eyes. It's the only positive of Bobby passing away is I think people are being made more aware of what he accomplished. And I think we definitely have to do like a companion podcast to watching the 1990 Knoxville Nationals. And I think once you're done, you'll agree it's the best Knoxville Nationals of all time. I know we have a lot of current ones that people think are epic, but when you sit down and watch 1990 and the upset he pulled, man, I just don't think there's anything that can top it. So that's what I'd suggest we do. That's all we've got on our list, and I actually don't mind running as long as we normally do. Because I know we said we'd come up with something, but I know I haven't thought of anything, and I don't have anything. Does anyone want to talk some shit about anything?
Man,
I don't have anything.
So we don't have any shit to talk. So this is a couple weeks in a row. We're really struggling. So what I'm going to encourage our fan to do is if people want to write shit talking topics into us and then we'll talk shit about like the one we like best, feel free to send us shit talking topics and we'll run our mouths and see if we can get ourselves in trouble.
Yeah, I have something. I have something.
Ooh. Oh, now all of a sudden
why would any series have the transponder on anything but the front of the race car?
Stupid.
We race with several series that race with the transponder on the back of the car, and no photo finish has ever been on the back bumper. So it makes no sense to me. It's silly. I'm glad that there's transponders. Also, if you have transponders, you should qualify.
I agree.
So that brings me to my question. I just may split people. It may not split people. If we have a photo of the cars crossing the line or the transponders, which would you rather they go by?
I guess
say it has to go by transponders because the loop is the finish only if the transponder's on the front. Because like JJ said, if they're in the back, it does not fucking count. We're not racing our assholes to the finish. We're racing our noses.
So, like, because I'm thinking back to, like, that gravel Trophy Cup Tulare finish.
Well, I do think, the placement, like, they don't ever check to see, like, which side of that little fucking brace. They don't ever check to see which side you have it mounted on. I mean,
I'm on the front.
Fucking call it an inch, call it whatever the fuck you want, 2 inches, whatever you want to call it.
That's a lot.
If it's different on some people's car, like Daryl's straight thumb, like it's different on people's car, that could be the difference.
And then Dom, you said you had something.
Oh, I just had a story.
It's not about Clausen Marshall by any.
No, it's not about Ripper.
So much editing.
So it's not juicy. So I got a buddy in Washington named Tyler Hood. He listens to every fucking episode. We send a shitload of memes.
So we have 2 fans.
I feel like I should know this person. How do I not
he's
know
badass.
him?
And his whole family comes to the races and shit.
I have a feeling this ends in Chungussery.
Does he have a brother named Riley?
Daryl knows about it. So they made shirts of Chungus, which if you don't know Chungus, look him up. And everyone has these pictures of like it's a shirt of Chungus's body, and then our face is like Chungus. And so there's a picture with my ass completely out in this shirt that is out in the atmosphere right now.
In the wild.
Yeah, but I've said for a while I've had to say something about that on the podcast. So yeah, and then now I have a shirt that I will try and wear the next podcast. It's a picture of me signing someone's ass with a shirt with me signing a person's ass.
Yeah, it's epic. I've seen the picture.
That picture's gone viral.
It's assception, if you will.
Yeah. Also, what's a Chungus? I don't know what that is.
Dude, I got you.
What shirt are we wearing now? I feel like we're wearing an old shirt there.
Chungus is an internet meme featuring a large, rotund version of Bugs Bunny from a 1941 cartoon known as Big Chungus, which became popular in 2018. The term itself was coined by the video game journalist Jim Sterling, and the meme spread online with Chungus also used as slang term for anything adorably chunky.
Perfect.
Pretty much sounds like a couple of us hosts on this podcast here.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the is it the Bugs Bunny one where it's by Meat Canyon and he's like, I'm gonna get that wabbit, and then he comes up and like grabs him and he's like, you got a tight little man pussy on you, don't you, boy? It stinks nice and good. Is it just me that saw that one?
No.
You can leave that in there. Yeah.
Never changed. What shirt are you wearing, Dom?
Oh, it's a Blaine Johnson shirt.
Damn it. That's badass.
Fucking badass. Throwback.
Is that drag racing?
Yes. So Blaine Johnson was going to win. Blaine Johnson and Alan Johnson are brothers. And yeah, they were going to win the 1996 Top Fuel Championship on like no fucking money at all. And Blaine crashed at Indy and died. And that basically, I don't think they put anybody in the car. That ended the year. My dad was always a fan of theirs because they're from California. And so he went to the funeral and stuff. And he actually, I wish he was here to tell the story, but how it worked out was like he went to the funeral, had a great time with them. And then Alan called my dad a few months later and was like, hey, thanks for coming to the funeral.
Do you know how weird that sounds? He went to the funeral and had a great time with him?
No, like, seriously, it was, let me preface this. It was an incredibly sad deal. Like, this guy lost his life way young. And so after the funeral, like, they all went out and they had a great time. Like, like, remembering him. And I think pretty sure they got all liquored up. And, like, it was like a good moment for the family that had such a negative experience. And so, like, Alan called my dad and was, like, along the lines of, like, appreciate you kind of putting such a lightness to such a dark day. And my dad's like, oh, absolutely. He's like, if there's anything I could ever do to help you guys, like, I'll come do clutch. I'll do whatever. I'd love to help out. Alan was like, have you ever thought about driving a Top Fuel car? And so then my dad was like, only when I'm asleep or I'm awake. And they ended up like working out a deal. There was a handshake agreement with Winston cigarette company, but they wanted Corey McClinathan. So they flew my dad first class to Winston-Salem to meet with the head people at RJ Reynolds Tobacco Company. And they had the meeting and they ended up deciding after, like, or at the end of the meeting went, they asked him kind of all different stuff. And then at the end of the meeting, he's like, all right, Gary, like, don't bullshit me. Like, how do you think we're going to do this year? Like, if you're our driver, what do you think? Are we going to win a race or two, top 5 in points? Where are you thinking? And my dad's like, the only reason I'm doing this is to be a world champion. Anything else is a letdown for me. And he was like, boys, we got a deal. And they signed him, and he ended up doing it. He won his first 2 races and won the championship in 1997, which was the year I was born. I never met Blaine, but Blaine has drastically shaped my life and my brother's life as well. So, somebody I've watched a lot of old Blaine Johnson tapes and admired the success that they had from a family team. And, it's a morbid thing to say, but without his passing, my dad never would have had an opportunity to drag race professionally.
Crazy.
And it just so worked out. My dad won the championship that Blaine should have won in 1996. So it was pretty cool.
Full circle.
Yeah.
I'm glad Daryl asked you about your T-shirt.
I could just tell it was a vintage one, and it wasn't like a fake vintage one.
It's fucking bad to the bone.
Well, fellas, is that everything we got?
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk to you later, fellas. Thanks for doing this.
See you boys next week.
See ya.
See ya.